we are going to continue with the kind of stories about what's happening in the United States, but this time back on their own turf, what's happening in there. Because as we can see, Rubio and others in the United States and Elon Musk wanted to try and extend their soft power to encourage governments in Europe to open up the doors of freedom of speech. As they're trying to make changes in the United States, the same sort of lawfare that we've seen against those 6 individuals and many more are being used at a grand scale across many states in the United States. And the big one came across last night. I mean, he was about 7 hours behind us in terms of a very, very surprising decision. I've got to admit, an incredibly surprising decision. And that is a federal court stated that Trump, as the president, does not have the power to individually impose tariffs unilaterally against other countries. I mean, this to me is a kind of shocking kind of use of law, and I wanted to try and understand it because all we've got so far is a very limited aspect about it. Not much has come back from, as I can see, from Trump himself or their spokesperson. But there is a New York-based court of international trade. The judges found that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is how Trump has announced the tariffs across the globe, does not give him the unlimited power to levy tariffs like the president has in recent months. Well, that's the question. Who has the power to actually issue tariffs? Why? Is it got to be for Congress?
I think it's Congress,
one? Is it the Senate? Are they the ones who are allowed to? Is it the president?
I actually asked ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT tells us that the constitutional authority lies with Congress in Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution.
So we're going to come to that because there is a particular act that been looked at, and the president's assertion here, it carries on. So that's fascinating how we're going to link that in. The assertion of tariff-making authority in the instant case, unbounded as it is by any limitation in duration or scope, exceeds any tariff authority delegated to the president under IEEPA. The worldwide and retaliatory tariffs are thus ultra-vires and contrary to law. So I have not yet had a chance to fully investigate IEEPA and what it amounts. But it was interesting to me, we're looking at that we've got another judge coming in and stepping in.
What it's worth noting in this case, though, is that only Congress has the power is delegated from Congress.
Yeah.
So Congress would have to intercede against the president if they wanted to prevent the tariffs that he was laying.
Yeah.
And the Congress is mostly Republican at the moment, so good luck.
Well, this is fascinating, and I'm going to be looking at the way that I'm looking at talking to constitutionalists and constitutional lawyers, which I always find interesting because Ted Cruz used to actually recite the Constitution allegedly when he went on dates with women that he knew when he was a student, and apparently that was a really big thing for American women. So if you go out there, lads. If you want to be able to chat up an American girl at a college, cite the 4A.2. Constitution. It really works. But here we've got IEEPA, which is the link that we come in. This is the conclusion of the court. I managed to get some part of the actual court itself, and at the top part, he tries to talk about he's not authorized to have worldwide retaliatory or traffic in tariffs. It exceeds his authority. All the things we've just mentioned. There's no question of narrowly tailored relief. It's either all or nothing. He can either give the powers or he doesn't. And if you bring that up, Samson, I want to show the last part, the bottom part of this. In here, it's the plaintiff's motions something are granted and their motions for preliminary injunction are denied as moot. He effectively, as a judge, is giving economic policy and trade policy in these two parts of the end. And I just find to myself, what authority did you have to be able to interpret trade authority on part? You're trying to mask, and I do this as a lawyer myself, you're trying to mask the constitutional law of the Congress granting powers to the United States, saying that he exceeds the power, that's fine. But then you're effectively saying he can't exercise the power that he's been granted. But where? How? Who? Yeah. When can he do so? So immediately I kind of thought to myself, this is going to be a big challenge for them. Their markets loved it. I mean,
Of course.
I was looking at something like, this is something like 1 o'clock in the morning. The US markets were already at 1%, which was bad for me because I'd gone short on the US tech. So I was losing quite a lot on this. Now the US tech has gone up despite all of this quite heavily. So they loved it. Asia, the markets in Asia rallied on the back end of this. So who's supporting this? Who's been behind it? A lot of big banks are behind it. Hedge funds and trade organizations are doing this. They're kind of rocking up the market, and we're seeing big changes in the market because Trump is saying he wants to do one thing. He's being challenged on the other. Then he's having to kind of backtrack, they say. So he's flip-flopping. I don't think he's really flip-flopping. I think he's just trying to organize deals in terms of the way it works. And what is it that people are saying? Well, just an ordinary individual. I picked up many. I just picked this one out of the bag. Why are the courts in the US working against the prosperity of the USA? Why would a court in New York say that Trump cannot impose tariffs against China, Canada, and Mexico when they do it to us? What the fuck is wrong with the courts? I'm so sick of the bullshit. And that is what people are in America, apart from, obviously, the elite class, are beginning to feel about the court system. The same as we're beginning to feel in this country about two-tier justice. There is now becoming a breakdown in trust. And I hate that as a lawyer myself, as someone who is a barrister who believes in the courts, believes in the rule of law, the necessity to have an ordered state, that we now have vast majorities of the public turning around and saying we no longer trust the courts en masse. Not just an individual lawyer here and there, but the whole system is corrupt. And that does not bode well for us in the long term.
No, for me, it's very difficult not to look at this story because it's inherently bound up with issues of the Constitution, things like Montesquieu and the separation of powers and all of that. All I can think about, Carl, is Thomas Hobbes, Joseph de Maistre, and Carl Schmitt standing wherever they are in the afterlife, saying, "We told you so," because basically, if you follow the arguments of the likes of Hobbes, de Maistre, and Schmitt, who was a German jurist, they said, well, look, ultimately, the question in any system is who is sovereign, who decides, who interprets, who decides on the exception. And ultimately, in any system, it can only really be one ruler, one body.
Yep.
And in America, it's not clear who that is meant to be. And so, and what's happened over time is because, as I understand it, Congress and the Senate in particular have become so bodged up with it's so hard to pass legislation, and it's become so polarized that what's happened is that the powers have started accumulating in the office of the president, in the executive.
Yeah.
Who it's not just Trump. Biden had to do it.
Absolutely.
Obama had to do it. Bush Junior had to do it. They had to rely on these emergency powers. In fact, when I was writing,
hang on a second. It's a very generous interpretation of this.
No, wait a second though. They've had to rely on emergency powers to the extent that emergency powers that were passed by Woodrow Wilson are still live and on the books. And then law, like case law, is built on the emergency power, and you actually get whole institutions when you actually look into it. Well, what's this all based on? Oh, it's something that LBJ once said. So then you get, but then you get a similar concentration of power in the court, and then every once in a while you get a big, you get like the president versus the Supreme Court. FDR was famous for this. He was always having a run-in with the Chief Justice, and every once in a while, FDR would say, look, if you go against me again, I'm going to stick 30 judges on this court, and I'm going to, basically, I'm the president. So you get this face-off. What it means in practice, though, is that over decades upon decades, the problem is never really sorted out. Now, maybe this is how the founding fathers designed it, but ultimately, it's not functional. Ultimately, somebody must decide. Somebody actually... And this is actually an area where I think in this country, Parliament genuinely is sovereign. Yeah. If Keir Starmer wanted to abolish the Supreme Court, he could do it tomorrow.
I wish he would.
Hope you're listening here.
Yeah, Boris could have done it.
Boris could have done it any time.
I mean,
he should have done.
Herbert Spencer, the divine right of Parliament,
Yeah.
and so this actually goes to the heart of what this constitution is about and whether America actually needs to think. Because I just find it absurd that some random judge in Hawaii can overrule the president.
So I just want to say, what a lovely, optimistic way of framing the president as if they are innocent of accruing executive power. They just had to do it, guys. They just had to pass the Patriot Act. They just had to become executive presidencies. Where if you look at the use of executive orders, they just skyrocket through Obama. They just had to do it. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they just had to essentially declare the ability to go to war without declaring war, which needs to be done through Congress. They just had to do it. Again, very, very, very lovely in the way that you frame it. But you are right.
But otherwise, Mitch
there is an issue.
Mitch McConnell will just sit there like a turtle and just stop anything happening forever. So,
I think he'd probably like to do that anyway, wouldn't he?
But the issue, though, that I think that is really coming down to this, that I think that you were trying to, you were hitting on, is that the markets obviously do understand that the tariffs are going to be damaging for the economic growth of the United States.
Yes.
But that's not really the question that's being answered by the tariffs. As Tim here, for him, it doesn't matter if the GDP goes up. What he's questioning is, how is my share of that GDP trickling down to me? Mm-hmm. And the use of tariffs is essentially what the left should be agreeing with, because it will help the working class actually acquire more of the wealth that actually flows into the United States and is produced by it than rampant free trade globalism will do. And so this really, I think, is the issue. And so you can see where the judge has landed on this. No, I'm against the working people of the United States. I'm actually for BlackRock and the other international corporations and hedge fund managers who are all rallying on the market at the moment. And what I find really interesting about the tariffs is it's actually shown you where Trump's heart really lies on this.
Yeah.
This was not a popular thing for him to do, and yet he did it anyway.
And he's going to be attacked not only by
he is being attacked.
by the political parties. He's attacked now by allegedly supporters of his in institutions, financial institutions, who will lose money in bond investments, CFDs, across the country because of this. That's why they're also concerned about the stock market fall, which for me, is, as a market watcher, market trader, it's incredibly strange how it's flying to all-time highs, despite the fact of what we're seeing across the globe and the fact that they say this is going to have a massive impact on the dollar, a massive impact on trade and the economy, and yet the equity markets are flying. So there's something completely wrong there. Either they're all trying to boost it before they get out, and then it collapses. But the reality is we've got the politics against him. We've got the markets against him because they will lose in the short term. The working class are with him because they recognize that his new package, his policy, will actually allow tips not to be taxed. And they're saying it's only going to give you a few $100s a month. But they don't understand a few $100s a month is a lot to someone who's got absolutely nothing.
But it's not just that, though. The arguments against the tariffs are your cheap tap from China will cost more.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I accept, but I might be able to get a better job than I have.
Yeah.
And so the sacrifice is the junk that's made outside of the United States and imported in, okay, you go without it. Your coffee will be slightly more expensive. Okay, that's true.
But you can also, over a period of time, and he recognises, Trump has made it very clear, that there is a short-term pain. Yeah. There was a short-term pain about Brexit. Every time you challenge the state, every time you challenge the way that it's been done for a long period of time, that people have comfortably sucked the living daylights out of it for their own time, makes an uncomfortable change for some people. But ultimately, you need to have those changes. I often look at it in terms of a company. If a company has just become too fat on managers and you're paying them too much, either the company goes bust or a takeover comes in. Yeah. And when the taker comes in, you get rid of middle management. Why can't countries do exactly the same? And tariffs is part of that. It's part of that structural change that's needed.
Well, would you guys agree, though, that in the long run, whichever way it goes round, power, I always say power despises a rival castle. And it seems to me that this situation where any random court can just overrule the president, okay, this time it's on tariff.
It's a preposterous system.
At some point, one of those two forces has to win and has to either the courts crush the power of the president or the president at some point has to tame it.
Well, the way the system is set up is so that they're in a constant tension forever. Do you think
That's not sustainable.
I agree. I agree with you. It's not going to carry on forever, is it?
No, and I'm intrigued about this because as I move through it, you kind of get you've got small businesses. You've got here Kelly Loeffler who's saying that we've looked at an individual. Small businesses are happy with this kind of trade. Yes, it will give them short-term elements, but they're going to get tax cuts and deregulation, which helps the small business, not the large corporates, who are the ones who are supporting this trade organization.
The large corporates are the ones who are most reliant on international trade anyway.
Yes.
Like this, the small business might be able to source things locally to do what it is they do, just because it'd probably be cheaper for them to get it from down the road rather than from China or whatever.
And it might even be an opportunity for a small business to turn around and say, I'm going to start doing T-shirts here.
Yeah.
It's probably worth explaining as well, because you just said, deregulation helps the small business. It's probably worth explaining that regulation tends to create an entry barrier, which then favours the massive corporations.
That's right.
They can
Couldn't
afford
agree
it.
more with that.
They can afford compliance.
Yeah.
The little man gets squeezed out, which is why corporations tend to favour the regulatory state and the managerial state.
Which is why the EU looks as the EU looks.
Yeah. And I was opposed to that. I never forget the story when I was chairing the Hedge Fund Lawyers Association. I said, right, after Brexit, we've got some arguments in the Treasury. What regulations do you want to be removed? And very few regulations were pointed to me. Oh, we don't like the regulation. Every meeting that I had is, we've got this regulation, then that regulation, it's costing us more. Okay, which ones do you want to go? The problem was they couldn't come up with them because to do so would mean lots of them potentially losing their jobs. And secondly, it would allow new players to come into the market. I mean, I had lots of my particular views on it.
I'm reminded of Adam Smith's definition of conspiracy, which is basically a number of people from rival big businesses getting together in a room, Basically that exact scenario.
Anyway, in the interest of time, I think
so I'm going to try and press on. Yep. So they're saying he doesn't have the power. I pulled up Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act 1962. That, to me, having read that, and there are those in the US who might have it, seems to suggest that Trump has initiated Section 232 investigations, World Trade Organization, and has the power.
Well, it's delegated from the Congress, so the Congress gets the decision.
So he has that power to do that. It's been granted to him. So that there are going to be differences. Then you've got Charlie Kirk. He comes in, sweeping new ruling, fact check. And as I looked at the Trade Expansion Act 62, allows for adjustments without needing congressional action.
And the Congress could take action against him if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Just the Republicans control us. They're not going to.
So the courts have the executive broad authority. So my next point was, you've got what's happening, and I said, well, here you've got another judge here. In previous judges, we got a federal judge blocked the federal age programs.
How could that possibly be within the purview of the judge?
Yeah.
I mean, don't the judges need cases being brought to them before they can make a judgment on them?
To me, it's so bizarre, though, because
very baffling.
Some of these cases is literally a judge saying, you got to give these jobs back to people. It's like they've already been fired.
That's right.
How bizarre is that?
How is that the judge's job? I mean, but again, don't they need a case to rule on in order to create the legal precedent?
Well, what they're doing is, I'm going to lead into that. So we've had the trade, we've had federal aid programs, we've got. The Supreme Court denied the bid to cancel $2 billion in US aid in a 5-4 vote. This is SCOTUS.
Can we get what's his name's 5-line summary of that, please?
Yeah, so we've got that. That was against $2 billion of US aid, and only two of the major guys, but it's 5-4, including a Trump-appointed judge on there.
Oh, Amy Coney Barrett as well.
Barrett, yeah.
So we now got, what can he do? What can Trump do? Well, on the one side, we can do what we discussed already, that he can go to the Supreme and say, intervene against the activist judges. And that I know and I understand from my contacts is happening. They're trying to draw up plans of how to deal with it, particularly the blocking of the flights of the criminals and the terrorists they organised. But again, the Supreme blocked his Alien Enemies Act. Okay, this is temporary. They want a full case.
Obviously, Thomas is I love Clarence Thomas so much, man.
Thomas and Alito.
Thomas.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that what would happen if one of the Democrat judges died, Again, he's got that opportunity. I think they're trying to keep them alive for as long as possible. We've got a federal judge in a court filing that will not comply with the court's orders to resume funding of USAID and State Department. So that's the second alternative they've got. Go to the Supreme Court or just ignore it.
What ruling? Again, like what charge was brought? What challenge was brought?
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
it's insufferable.
So we have a situation where he can ignore it. And then I just thought I'd finish with this because I just, looking at the lawfare from Deepfake Quotes, it's not just about policy. It's that thing. It's about process. It's about tying him up. It's taking his energies away, making sure his legal teams, the White House, are fighting battles on constant fronts. And whether it's the deportation plan, and I'm just going to play this because I love this mask, always have done. No, I don't go in the shower with one of my own, honestly. But it's just...
This is lawfare, a strategy not to block deportation outright, but to slow it down so much that it effectively never happens. Over 20 million illegal crossings. The goal is delay.
I hate to
delay becomes
in the AI
denial.
slop.
The Constitution...
But
yeah, we get it.
My point was to just say exactly what's happening here. Exactly when we're talking about lawfare is being used against individuals opposed to state, opposed mass migration. Lawfare is being used on a number of fronts in different states against everything that Trump does. He's got limited options of what he's got. Mm-hmm. So either get everything up into the Supreme Court or ignore it. But that's what's happening. The markets love it at the moment. And this will be a massive trial and a test for him.
Didn't they do all this last time? It seems like a exact repeat of the first time.
Except he's got Congress and Senate this time.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.